The city streets were enveloped in the deep embrace of night, their secrets whispered through the rustling of leaves and the distant sounds of traffic. It was on one such night, amidst the familiar yet mysterious ambience of urban life, that my world collided with uncertainty. Navigating the labyrinthine alleys and bustling sidewalks had always been second nature to me. Yet, on that fateful evening, an unsettling feeling stirred within, a premonition that would unravel the fabric of my everyday existence. With each step down the well-trodden paths, the rhythmic echo of my footsteps reverberated against the cold pavement, punctuated by the occasional flicker of a passing street lamp. The air was crisp with the promise of autumn, carrying the earthy scent of fallen leaves and the distant echoes of laughter from nearby cafes. It was then, as I turned a corner onto a dimly lit street, that I first sensed his presence, a shadowy figure lingering at the edge of my peripheral vision. At first, I dismissed it as a trick of the light or the fleeting image of a passerby. Yet as I continued on my way, an uneasy feeling gnawed at the back of my mind, a persistent sense of being watched. The night seemed to close in around me, amplifying every sound and casting elongated shadows across the pavement. Glancing over my shoulder, I caught glimpses of the figure, a silhouette cloaked in darkness, its features obscured by the veil of night. Was he merely a stranger navigating the same streets, or something more sinister, stalking me from the shadows? A surge of adrenaline propelled me forward, hastening my steps in an attempt to outpace the unsettling presence that seemed to match my every move. The city, once a familiar landscape of bustling activity, now felt transformed, a maze of uncertainty where danger lurked unseen. I veered off my usual path, darting down narrower alleys and quieter side streets, each turn a calculated effort to shake off the phantom pursuer. Yet, with each new corner turned, the shadowy figure persisted, a haunting presence that refused to be left behind. Finally, breathless and on edge, I reached the sanctuary of my doorstep. Fumbling for my keys with trembling hands, the metallic clink resonated loudly in the stillness of the night, a stark contrast to the rapid thudding of my heart. With a deep exhale, I slipped inside, locking the door behind me with a mixture of relief and lingering unease. Through the peephole, I cautiously observed the street outside, a solitary figure standing motionless under the flickering glow of a nearby street lamp. His presence lingered like an unspoken threat, a reminder of the vulnerability that lurked just beyond the safety of my home. In the days that followed, a lingering sense of apprehension colored my every interaction and outing. Shadows seemed to take on a deeper hue, their movements casting suspicious glances at every corner turned. Friends offered reassurances, attributing my unease to the stresses of urban living and an overactive imagination. Yet, deep within, I knew that what I had experienced was more than a mere trick of the mind. It was a brush with the unknown, a fleeting encounter that had exposed the fragility of security and the shadows that lurked beneath the surface of everyday life. As the weeks turned into months, the shadowy figure faded into memory, eclipsed by the routines of daily life and the passage of time. Yet, the lessons of that fateful night remained etched in the recesses of my consciousness, a reminder of the vulnerability that lurked just beyond the comforting veneer of familiarity. And as I gazed out into the city skyline, bathed in the soft glow of dawn, I knew that my encounter with the shadowy figure had irrevocably altered my perception of the world. It had peeled back the layers of complacency, revealing the raw edges of vulnerability and resilience that lay beneath. In the quiet moments of reflection, I found solace in the realization that strength could be found in confronting fear head-on. The city continued to buzz with its familiar rhythms, seemingly unchanged by the turmoil that had briefly disrupted my existence. Yet within me, a newfound awareness had taken root, a vigilance sharpened by experience, and a determination to reclaim the sense of security that had been momentarily shattered. The shadowy figure had faded into the tapestry of urban myths and cautionary tales, but for me, it had become a symbol of resilience, a testament to navigating the labyrinth of fear and emerging stronger on the other side. As I stepped out into the night once more, I carried with me the echoes of that fateful encounter, a reminder that the shadows in the night held not only uncertainty, but also the promise of strength and renewal. The rain-soaked streets glistened under the flickering glow of streetlights as I hurried home, my heels clicking against the pavement. It was late, well past midnight, and the chill in the air matched the unease creeping up my spine. Every few blocks I noticed him, a man turning onto the same streets as me, his presence uncomfortably consistent. At first, I dismissed it as mere coincidence, my rational mind trying to calm the growing sense of dread, but each turn he made, each corner he mirrored my steps around, intensified my unease. His figure remained shrouded in the shadows, a silhouette that seemed to blend with the night itself. I quickened my pace, the rhythm of my heart matching the cadence of my hurried steps. Glancing over my shoulder, I confirmed he was still there, his form lingering just far enough to evade direct recognition, yet close enough to evoke a primal fear. By the time I reached the familiar row of brownstones lining my street, my breaths came in shallow, nervous gasps. With trembling hands, I fumbled for my keys, the metal cold and unwelcoming against my skin. The door swung open just in time, my sanctuary offering a brief respite from the looming presence outside. Peering through the peephole, I watched as he halted at the edge of the dimly lit walkway leading to my front steps. His stance was unnervingly still, an ominous silhouette against the glow of a distant street lamp. Minutes stretched into eternity as he lingered, his intent unclear yet palpable. Fear pulsed through me, a steady drumbeat matching the rain tapping against the windows. What did he want? Why follow me? Questions raced through my mind, unanswered and unsettling. Finally, after what felt like an eternity but was likely only minutes, he turned away. His steps were slow, deliberate, almost reluctant, as he melted back into the anonymity of the night. The weight of his presence lifted, but the chill of uncertainty remained, seeping into the corners of my once safe haven. I closed the curtains with trembling hands, blocking out the outside world and the questions it brought. Alone in the quiet of my apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was far from over, that the shadowed streets held secrets I wasn't yet ready to uncover. As I stood there, the echoes of footsteps seemed to reverberate through the silence, a haunting reminder of his unsettling presence. Each creak of the old floorboards beneath my feet echoed like a distant warning, amplifying the unease that had settled within me. Unable to shake off the feeling of being watched, I paced anxiously from room to room, the walls of my apartment feeling suddenly confining. Shadows danced across the walls, cast by the occasional flicker of passing headlights outside. Every sound, every flicker of movement outside the window sent my heart racing anew. The clock on the wall ticked away the minutes, each one dragging on with excruciating slowness. Thoughts raced through my mind, weaving through possible explanations for the stranger's presence. Was he a mere passerby, or something more sinister? The unanswered questions gnawed at my thoughts, refusing to be silenced. Hours passed in this state of heightened alertness, my exhaustion warring with the adrenaline that still coursed through my veins. Eventually, as the first light of dawn began to filter through the curtains, a sense of fragile calm settled over me. The streets outside were quiet now, the city awakening to a new day. Yet, despite the daylight bringing a semblance of safety, the memory of those shadowed streets lingered like a phantom. The encounter had left an indelible mark, a reminder that safety could be shattered in an instant, even in the familiar embrace of home. The next day dawned grey and heavy with the remnants of the storm. I tried to shake off the lingering unease from the previous night as I prepared for work, but the memory of the shadowed figure outside my home haunted me like a persistent ghost. Throughout the day, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every glance over my shoulder, every unfamiliar face in the crowd sent a jolt of anxiety through me. Had he followed me to work? Was he lurking in the periphery, waiting for another chance encounter? I confided in a co-worker, hoping for reassurance or at least a rational explanation, but the look of concern mirrored on their face only amplified my own fears. They advised caution, suggested contacting the authorities, but without concrete evidence, what could I say? The hours dragged on, each passing moment stretching the tension tauter. By the time I left the office, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the deserted streets. My footsteps echoed in the empty corridors of the subway station as I descended into its depths, hyper-aware of every sound, every movement around me. As the train rumbled toward my stop, I couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. Paranoia whispered in the recesses of my mind, urging me to be vigilant. The familiar route home felt like a labyrinth, every turn a potential trap. Emerging from the subway, I scanned the platform, half expecting to see him there, waiting. But the station was quiet, devoid of anything but the faint hum of electricity and the distant rumble of approaching trains. The walk home was a blur of nervous glances and quickened steps. My heart raced as I approached my building, the sense of relief at reaching my doorstep tempered by the fear of what lay beyond it. Inside, the familiar walls offered little solace. I locked every door and window, double-checking each latch as if my life depended on it. The evening passed in a haze of anxiety, the smallest creak of the settling building sending me into a panicked frenzy. Night fell once more, and with it came the dread of another sleepless vigil. I sat by the window, curtains drawn back just enough to peer into the darkness outside. Would he return tonight? What did he want from me? As the hours crawled by, my exhaustion battled against my fear, threatening to drag me into an uneasy sleep. But every rustle of leaves, every distant sound, snapped me back to a state of tense vigilance. The night passed in agonizing slowness, each minute feeling like an eternity, and as the first hints of dawn painted the sky in muted hues, I realized that this was only the beginning, that the shadowed figure from the night before had cast a darkness over my life that wouldn't easily be dispelled. With each passing day, the unease settled deeper within me like roots digging into soil. Simple tasks became daunting. Every routine outing felt like navigating a minefield of potential threats. Even in the bustling office, surrounded by colleagues, I found myself constantly scanning faces, searching for a familiar shadow. I began keeping a meticulous log of every sighting, every suspicious moment, hoping to find a pattern that might offer some clarity. But the incidents seemed random, scattered like pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit together. Friends and family offered support, their concern palpable, yet their attempts at reassurance felt hollow against the backdrop of my escalating paranoia. The advice to stay vigilant echoed in my mind like a mantra, reinforcing the sense of isolation that had taken root. Days blurred into weeks, and still the shadowed figure eluded understanding. Had he been a figment of my imagination, a manifestation of fear in the darkened corners of my mind? Or was he real, a tangible threat lurking just beyond reach? Each night became a battle of wills, a test of endurance against the relentless ticking of the clock. I patrolled my apartment like a sentinel, every shadow scrutinized, every noise dissected for potential danger. The city, once vibrant and familiar, now felt like a maze of hidden dangers and unanswered questions. I ventured out less often, cocooning myself within the safety of my home's walls. Yet even there, I couldn't escape the lingering sense of intrusion. With each passing day, I grew more determined to uncover the truth, to reclaim the sense of security that had been stolen from me. But as the weeks turned into months, the mystery only deepened, a shadowy specter haunting the edges of my existence. And so, as I faced each new day with a mixture of trepidation and resolve, I knew that until the shadowed figure was unmasked, my life would remain suspended in a state of perpetual uncertainty, a constant battle against the unknown. Days turned into weeks, each one marked by a heightened sense of paranoia and an exhausting routine of vigilance. The shadowed figure had not returned, but his presence lingered like a stain, tainting every moment of solitude. I threw myself into work, seeking refuge in the structured chaos of deadlines and meetings. Distraction became my shield, albeit a fragile one, against the gnawing fear that lurked just beneath the surface. Despite my attempts to appear unaffected, my friends and colleagues noticed the change. They offered sympathetic smiles and gentle inquiries, but their concern only served to remind me of my vulnerability. How could I explain the terror of feeling hunted, of not knowing when or if he would strike again? One evening, as I lingered in the office long after everyone else had left, a sense of grim determination took hold. I couldn't continue living in fear, imprisoned by shadows and what-ifs. It was time to take action. I contacted the police, recounting the events of that fateful night and the subsequent days of unease. They listened attentively, their questions probing for details I had tried to forget. They promised to increase patrols in my neighborhood and advised me to report any further suspicious activity immediately. Relief washed over me momentarily, buoyed by the hope that maybe, just maybe, this nightmare would soon be over. But as I returned home that night, the weight of uncertainty settled back upon my shoulders. Would the increased police presence deter him? Or would it provoke a more brazen approach? Days passed without incident, and gradually the grip of fear began to loosen. I dared to hope that perhaps he had moved on, found another target, or lost interest altogether. But hope, as fragile as it was soon shattered. It happened on a rainy Friday evening when the streets were slick with moisture and the air thick with tension. I had stayed late at work again, preoccupied with a project that demanded my full attention. The walk to the subway station was a blur of hurried steps and nervous glances, my mind racing with thoughts of deadlines and unfinished tasks. As I descended into the dimly lit station, a chill ran down my spine. There, among the throng of commuters, I saw him, a silhouette in the crowd, his gaze fixed on me with an intensity that sent a jolt of terror through my veins. Panic surged, threatening to overwhelm me. I quickened my pace, weaving through the crowd in a desperate attempt to lose him. But he matched my every move, his presence like a dark cloud hanging over me. Heart pounding, I burst onto the platform just as the train doors slid shut. Without a second thought, I boarded, seeking refuge in the anonymity of the crowded carriage. I dared not look back, fearing what I might see. The train rattled onward, each stop bringing a surge of hope and dread. Would he follow me onto the train? Would he wait for me at my stop? Mercifully, he did neither. The minutes stretched into eternity as the train carried me away from the looming threat. By the time I reached my station, my nerves were frayed, but I was grateful for the temporary reprieve. Stepping onto the platform, I scanned the crowd anxiously. He was nowhere to be seen. With shaky hands, I hailed a cab and retreated to the safety of my apartment, locking the door behind me with a sense of weary resignation. That night, sleep eluded me once more. The events of the evening replayed in my mind like a broken record, each detail etched into my memory with chilling clarity. It was clear now that this was no chance encounter, that he had been following me, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As dawn broke over the city skyline, I resolved to confront this threat head-on. No longer would I be a victim of fear and uncertainty. Armed with determination and a newfound sense of resolve, I vowed to uncover the truth behind his relentless pursuit. Little did I know, the answers I sought would lead me down a path darker and more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of investigations and anxious waiting. The police assigned a detective to my case, and together we combed through security footage, interviewed witnesses, and searched for any clue that could unravel the mystery of the shadowed figure. Each lead brought a mix of hope and frustration. Sightings were reported, but they always seemed to slip through our fingers like smoke. The city, once a bustling backdrop to my life, now became a labyrinth of potential hiding places and elusive shadows. I found myself retracing my steps, revisiting the scenes of previous encounters, hoping to glean some overlooked detail that might break the case wide open. The once familiar streets took on a new significance, each corner holding a potential clue or a lurking threat. Meanwhile, my daily existence became a balancing act between normalcy and the constant threat of the unknown. Colleagues and friends offered support, their concern a lifeline amidst the uncertainty. Yet beneath their comforting words, I sensed their unease, their fear of becoming entangled in a situation they couldn't fully grasp. Nights were the hardest. Sleep remained elusive, haunted by nightmares of being pursued through shadowed alleys and deserted streets. The darkness outside my window seemed to whisper with unseen threats, leaving me restless and vigilant until the first light of dawn. Despite the mounting pressure and the toll it took on my mental and emotional well-being, I refused to give up. Each setback fueled my determination to uncover the truth, to bring an end to the torment that had upended my life. But as weeks stretched into months, doubts crept in. Would I ever find closure? Had the shadowed figure slipped through our grasp, leaving behind only unanswered questions and shattered peace of mind? Yet, amidst the uncertainty, a glimmer of hope persisted. Somewhere, buried within the tangled web of clues and suspicions, lay the key to unlocking the truth, and I vowed to keep searching. to follow every lead until the shadowed figure was unmasked and the darkness that had enveloped my life finally lifted. The days blurred together as I delved deeper into unraveling the mystery of the shadowed figure. Armed with determination and a growing sense of unease, I began scouring through every available piece of information. First, I retraced my steps on the night of the initial encounter, searching for any overlooked detail or clue. The neighborhood was quiet during the day, starkly different from the tense atmosphere of nighttime. I spoke to neighbors, hoping someone else had noticed something unusual, but most were oblivious or hesitant to share information. Next, I turned to technology, installing security cameras around my apartment and meticulously reviewing footage from nearby establishments. Hours turned into days as I scrutinized grainy images and fleeting shadows, hoping for a glimpse of the man who had disrupted my sense of security. The police remained supportive, but cautioned that without concrete evidence or a direct threat, their hands were tied. Frustration gnawed at me, a persistent reminder of my vulnerability. One evening, while combing through hours of footage, I noticed a pattern, a shadowy figure, glimpsed briefly in the background of multiple clips. His presence was fleeting yet unmistakable, like a phantom haunting the edges of my life. With renewed determination, I pieced together a timeline of his movements, tracing his path through the city streets like a hunter tracking prey. He was elusive, careful not to reveal too much, but his persistence betrayed a deeper motive. Digging deeper into public records and online databases, I uncovered a name, Michael Reynolds. The discovery sent a shiver down my spine, a name suddenly imbued with sinister implications. Who was he? What did he want from me? Armed with this newfound information, I sought out anyone who might have known him, a former colleague, a neighbor, anyone who could shed light on his motives. But each lead turned into a dead end, leaving me more confused and unsettled than before. As the days stretched into weeks, I wrestled with fear and curiosity in equal measure. Michael Reynolds remained a shadowy enigma, his motives obscured by layers of secrecy and unanswered questions. But one thing was certain: this was far from over. With every piece of the puzzle I unearthed, the picture grew clearer, yet more chilling. The shadowed figure that had haunted my nights was no mere coincidence, but a deliberate intrusion into my life. With resolve hardening into resolve, I prepared to confront Michael Reynolds head-on, knowing that the truth I sought could either set me free or plunge me deeper into darkness. I delved deeper into Michael Reynolds' digital footprint, scouring social media platforms and professional networks for any clue that could shed light on his identity and intentions. His online presence was sparse, a deliberate effort to remain elusive, but I managed to uncover fragments. A few scattered connections, cryptic posts that hinted at a troubled past. A breakthrough came unexpectedly when I stumbled upon a mention of him in a local newspaper article from years ago. The piece described a man fitting his description involved in a minor altercation at a downtown bar. It was a small piece of the puzzle, but it provided a glimpse into his troubled history. Armed with this newfound insight, I revisited the places where he had been spotted, questioning shopkeepers and residents who might have encountered him. Slowly, a portrait of Michael Reynolds began to emerge, not just a shadowy figure, but a man with a history, a man with secrets. The police, now more engaged with the mounting evidence, offered their support as we pieced together his movements. They shared details from their own investigations, linking him to other incidents that bore similarities to my own experience. Yet, despite the progress, Michael Reynolds remained elusive. He seemed to anticipate our every move, slipping through our fingers time and again. It was as if he thrived on the chase, the cat-and-mouse game that had consumed my life. Nights became restless as I lay awake, thoughts consumed by the looming confrontation. What would I say to him? How would he react? The uncertainty gnawed at me, but I knew that I could not rest until I confronted the source of my torment. And so, armed with a plan and the support of the authorities, I prepared for the inevitable showdown. The city streets, once familiar and comforting, now loomed with an eerie stillness as I ventured out into the night, determined to finally unveil the truth behind Michael Reynolds and the darkness he had brought into my life. The name Michael Reynolds echoed in my mind like a warning bell, each syllable laden with a weight I couldn't shake. Armed with the fragmented pieces of his identity, I embarked on a mission to confront the shadowed figure who had turned my life upside down. I began by revisiting the places where our paths had crossed, the street corners where he had mirrored my steps, the subway station where I had first glimpsed his haunting silhouette. Each location held a thread of his presence, a breadcrumb trail leading me closer to the truth. One chilly evening, I found myself standing outside a nondescript apartment building. The address gleaned from my relentless pursuit of answers. The building was silent, its facade offering no clues to the man who lay within. Heart pounding, I pressed the buzzer labeled with his name, Michael Reynolds. The intercom crackled to life, a voice tinged with surprise asking who I was and what I wanted. I hesitated only briefly before declaring my name and purpose, to confront him about his unsettling presence in my life. Minutes stretched into eternity as I waited for a response. The anticipation gnawed at my resolve, threatening to unravel the fragile courage that had propelled me this far. But just as doubt threatened to overtake me, the door buzzed softly, granting me access. Inside, the building was dimly lit, shadows dancing along the walls like specters. I climbed the stairs, each step a testament to the determination that had brought me here. On the third floor, I paused outside the door marked with his name, my hand poised to knock. Before my knuckles could make contact, the door swung open, revealing a figure bathed in the soft glow of lamplight. Michael Reynolds stood before me, his features etched with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. For a moment, neither of us spoke, the weight of unspoken questions hanging heavy in the air. Then, with a steadiness I didn't know I possessed, I confronted him, demanding to know why he had followed me, why he had invaded my sense of safety and security. His response was unexpected, a mixture of apology and confusion. He claimed innocence, insisting that our encounters had been coincidental, that he had never meant to cause me fear or distress. But I wasn't convinced. The shadows of doubt lingered, casting doubt upon his every word. Sensing my skepticism, he offered explanations, plausible yet tinged with ambiguity, like pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit together. As we spoke, the tension eased, replaced by a tentative understanding. Michael Reynolds was not the monster I had feared, but a man haunted by his own demons, a misunderstanding born of fear and circumstance. Reluctantly, I accepted his explanations, though doubts lingered like shadows in the corners of my mind. We parted ways that night, each of us carrying the weight of our shared encounter, a fragile truce forged in the crucible of fear and uncertainty. Walking away from his apartment, I realized that the truth I had sought was not a simple answer, but a complex tapestry of human frailty and misunderstanding. Michael Reynolds remained a mystery, his motives still unclear, but the confrontation had offered a measure of closure, a glimmer of light in the darkness that had consumed me. As I returned home, the streets were quiet, the rain washing away the remnants of a stormy night. Inside my apartment, I closed the curtains against the world outside, grateful for the peace that had eluded me for so long. But even as I settled into bed, sleep remained elusive, a testament to the lingering shadows that still haunted my dreams. The story of Michael Reynolds had not ended, but for now, I had found a fragile peace, a temporary respite from the relentless pursuit of answers. In the days that followed the confrontation, I found myself grappling with a mix of emotions, relief that the immediate threat had subsided, yet a lingering unease about what lay ahead. Michael Reynolds had offered an explanation, but doubts continued to plague me. I threw myself back into work, seeking solace in the familiar routine. Colleagues noticed a change in me, a weariness that belied the outward appearance of normalcy. They offered sympathetic smiles and encouraging words, but their gestures only served to highlight the lingering doubts that gnawed at my mind. Nights were the hardest. Alone in the silence of my apartment, I replayed the events of the confrontation over and over, searching for clues I might have missed, dissecting every word spoken between us. The truth remained elusive, slipping through my fingers like smoke. One evening, while sorting through old emails and documents, I stumbled upon a photograph, a snapshot taken months ago at a crowded cafe. In the background, barely noticeable at first glance, was a familiar silhouette, the outline of Michael Reynolds. The discovery sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. Had he been watching me for longer than I realized? Was there more to his presence in my life than mere coincidence? Armed with this newfound piece of evidence, I revisited our initial encounters with a fresh perspective. Each detail took on new significance, each interaction scrutinized for hidden meaning. The puzzle of Michael Reynolds deepened, the boundaries between reality and paranoia blurring once more. Determined to uncover the truth, I reached out to acquaintances and contacts, probing for any connection to Michael Reynolds. Rumors and whispers surfaced, a mention of a past incident, a vague association with someone from my social circle. But concrete answers remained elusive, slipping through my grasp like sand. Meanwhile, the city continued its relentless march towards summer, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within its midst. I wandered its streets, my senses heightened, searching for signs of Michael Reynolds, hoping to catch a glimpse that would unravel the mystery once and for all. But as days turned into weeks, the trail grew cold. Michael Reynolds seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a lingering sense of unease. Yet, despite the uncertainty, a flicker of determination burned within me. The confrontation had been just the beginning, a catalyst for deeper exploration into the shadows that had enveloped my life. Whether Michael Reynolds remained a threat or a misunderstood figure haunted my thoughts day and night, propelling me forward in search of clarity and closure. Days turned into weeks after my confrontation with Michael Reynolds, and life settled into a fragile semblance of normalcy. The initial terror and paranoia began to fade, replaced by cautious optimism that the worst was behind me. Yet despite my efforts to move on, a nagging sense of unease lingered beneath the surface. I kept a watchful eye on my surroundings, hyper-aware of every unfamiliar face and every shadowed corner. The security cameras remained vigilant sentinels, capturing hours of mundane footage that offered little solace but served as a grim reminder of the past. One evening, as I reviewed the latest recordings, a familiar figure appeared on screen, a silhouette hauntingly similar to Michael Reynolds. My heart skipped a beat, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. Had he returned? Or was it merely a trick of the light? I scrutinized the footage with painstaking precision, freezing frames and adjusting angles in a desperate attempt to confirm or dispel my suspicions. The figure moved with an unsettling familiarity, weaving through the frame like a phantom from my past. Fear and uncertainty threatened to overwhelm me once more, but determination hardened my resolve. Armed with newfound resolve, I embarked on a mission to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. I retraced my steps, revisiting the places where our paths had intersected, the streets, the subway station, the apartment building where I had confronted him. Each location held a fragment of his presence, a breadcrumb leading me closer to the elusive truth. My inquiries led me down a labyrinthine path of rumors and half-truths, whispers of a man with a troubled past, a past intertwined with shadows and secrets. I delved deeper into public records and online archives, piecing together a mosaic of Michael Reynolds' life, a life marked by tragedy and loss. The revelations were both startling and sobering. Michael Reynolds was not who he had claimed to be, a simple misunderstanding or a case of mistaken identity. His true identity lay buried beneath layers of deceit and deception, a web of lies spun with careful precision. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I confronted him once more, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. The truth, when revealed, shattered the fragile peace I had fought so hard to maintain. Michael Reynolds stood before me, his gaze filled with resignation and remorse. He confessed to his past, to the mistakes that had led him down a dark path of obsession and despair. His intentions, though misguided, were rooted in a desperate need for connection, a need that had driven him to follow me, to invade my life in ways he could not comprehend. In that moment, the lines between victim and perpetrator blurred, leaving us both grappling with the consequences of our actions. Forgiveness seemed a distant dream, a fragile hope overshadowed by the weight of betrayal and mistrust. As I walked away from him for the final time, the streets were quiet, the echoes of our encounter fading into the night. The truth had set me free, but at what cost? The scars of fear and uncertainty would linger, a testament to the darkness that had once consumed me. But amidst the shadows, a flicker of hope remained, a hope that someday I would find peace, and Michael Reynolds would find redemption. Until then, I carried the weight of our shared encounter, a burden born of fear and forgiveness, of truth and reconciliation. The story of Michael Reynolds had ended, but its echoes would resonate within me for years to come, a reminder of the fragility of trust and the resilience of the human spirit. Weeks turned into months since my last encounter with Michael Reynolds. The initial shock and fear gradually faded, replaced by a cautious optimism that life could return to normalcy once more. Yet, the lingering echoes of our shared ordeal continued to haunt me, a reminder of the fragility of safety and the unpredictability of human behavior. I immersed myself in work and routine, seeking solace in the structured chaos of everyday life. The security cameras remained vigilant, their watchful eyes a constant reminder of the past. I had learned to live with a heightened sense of awareness, a survival instinct honed by fear and uncertainty. As the seasons changed, so did my perspective. The once ominous shadows of my past began to dissipate, replaced by a newfound resilience forged in the crucible of adversity. I found solace in the support of friends and loved ones, their unwavering presence a beacon of hope in the darkness. Yet despite my efforts to move forward, Michael Reynolds remained a specter in the recesses of my mind. I wondered about his fate, about the choices that had led him down a path of obsession and regret. Had he found peace, or was he still haunted by the ghosts of his past? One afternoon, a letter arrived, an unexpected missive that would unravel the final threads of our shared story. It was from Michael Reynolds, a carefully penned confession that laid bare the depths of his remorse and regret. He apologized for the fear he had caused, for the intrusion into my life that had left scars both seen and unseen. In his words, I found closure. A closure born not of forgiveness, but of understanding. Michael Reynolds was a man grappling with demons far greater than himself, a man driven by a desperate need for connection in a world fraught with isolation. With a heavy heart, I penned a response tinged with compassion and acceptance. I forgave him not for his actions, but for the humanity that bound us together, a humanity capable of both darkness and light, of fear and forgiveness. As I sealed the letter and sent it on its way, a weight lifted from my shoulders, a weight born of fear and uncertainty. The chapter of Michael Reynolds had come to a close, its lessons etched into the fabric of my being. Life resumed its steady rhythm, the echoes of our shared ordeal fading into the background like distant echoes. I carried with me the scars of our encounter, a reminder of the fragility of trust and the resilience of the human spirit. And as I looked toward the horizon, I found solace in the knowledge that from darkness, light would always emerge, a testament to the enduring power of hope and healing. Years had passed since the unsettling chapter of Michael Reynolds had closed in my life. The memories of those tense nights and the shadowed figure who had cast a pall over my sense of security had faded into the recesses of my mind. Life had moved on, filled with new experiences, joys, and challenges. I had come a long way from the fearful, vigilant person I once was. The security cameras had long been removed, no longer necessary in a life where trust and normalcy had been restored. The streets no longer held echoes of suspicion, but instead bustled with the rhythms of everyday life. Occasionally, my thoughts would drift back to Michael Reynolds, the man who had unwittingly become entwined in my story. I wondered where life had taken him, whether he had found the peace and redemption he had sought. Our paths had diverged, yet his presence lingered like a gentle reminder of the fragility of human connection. I had learned valuable lessons from that tumultuous period of my life, lessons of resilience, compassion, and the importance of facing fears head-on. The encounter with Michael Reynolds had tested my strength and resolve, leaving behind scars that served as reminders of my own vulnerability. As I reflected on those turbulent times, I realized how far I had come. The fear that once gripped me had transformed into a quiet courage, a courage born of confronting adversity and emerging stronger on the other side. Life had its share of uncertainties, but I faced each day with renewed optimism and gratitude. The shadows that once haunted me had been replaced by the warmth of newfound resilience, a resilience that had been forged in the crucible of fear and uncertainty. And as I looked toward the future, I embraced the lessons of my past with a sense of gratitude. Michael Reynolds had been a fleeting figure in my life, a catalyst for growth and introspection. but his impact had left an indelible mark on my journey. In the quiet moments of reflection, I found peace, a peace born of acceptance and forgiveness. The story of Michael Reynolds had become a part of my own narrative, a testament to the transformative power of compassion and understanding. And so, with a heart full of gratitude and hope, I embraced the uncertainty of the future, knowing that from darkness, light would always emerge, a beacon of resilience and possibility in the journey of life.